I am Doomsvince, and this is day 138 of Spawn Year.
Since I arrived in this hazy, glowing paradise 2 weeks ago, I've spent much of my copious amount of free time rewatching my favorite television shows. I wanted to take advantage of this situation. I never thought I'd have access to anything but Spawn-related media this year, and as I'm certain this room won't be where I'll remain for the rest of it, this very well may be my last chance to enjoy some of these series, perhaps my last chance ever. But I've stopped somewhere in the middle of every show I've started because, in each instance, I remember being disappointed in their conclusions in one way or another, either because the show dipped in quality or lost its identity along the way, or else because it ended unfinished or left me less than satisfied. Firefly and the 4400 and Angel all ended prematurely, all great shows with a lot more to say. Watching today's episode of Spawn, I found myself terrified that it too might share a similar fate. I couldn't have cared less if it was canceled last season. I became so underwhelmed and disinterested in the plotting, mysteries, and politics that focused on characters I found dull and wooden and never seemed to go anywhere. But now, suddenly, it's like someone dragged the show back from the dead and gave it life again. Happily, it centers on Spawn again. The episode is packed with mostly straightforward and engaging storytelling. Several setups from last season are finally paying off, and the best part, Sam and Twitch are finally being used the way I always wanted to see in the comics, as investigators who are uncovering the truth about Spawn and Hell through their detective work, or at least Twitch is doing that. It's baffling to me that it takes a whole team of writers to put me to sleep, but just one to make me invested again. John Leakley, who's one of the producers and also wrote last episode, is bringing an energy and confidence back to the show I never expected to see again, which is good because I nearly fell asleep during that episode with the gang that hid drugs and Bibles, and these shows just appear on the TV whenever they feel like it at any given time of day, so I can't start over or rewind if I miss something. On day 135, I was interrupted in the middle of a particularly intense and productive game of Galaga, and I wasn't too happy about it, especially when so little happened that episode. There are several closely connected subplots in this story, tied together both thematically and narratively. Wynn wants Spawn found, presumably because Spawn accosted him in his office last season. Banks wants Spawn found because Wynn got him elected as chief of police and does whatever Wynn says for the sake of their arrangement. Sam and Twitch want Spawn found because Banks assigns them to find him, but more than that, because they've gotten a glimpse of him and they know he must have something to do with all these dead bodies in the alleys. And Lisa Wu wants to find Spawn because she knows from the missing weapons she discovered in Rat City that there's a connection between him and Jason Wynn, who she ultimately is trying to bring down. I'm impressed with how finding Spawn is representative of what these characters all really want on a personal level. Sam, Twitch, and Lisa are concerned with justice, and Wynn is concerned with keeping his corruption under wraps. Then you've got Wanda, who I honestly never wanted to see again for fear of rehashing the same tired, you can't go home again rhetoric. But the scene where she bears her soul to Lisa about how Al was the one and she's never really mourned him is sad and touching, and call me a sap, but I suddenly kind of care about her again. She's very different from everyone else involved. She knows deep down that Spawn is Al, but she doesn't want to believe it. Whereas all these other players have good reason to want Spawn found, she has every reason to keep Al buried. And amazingly, it makes it even a little more understandable that Spawn is still refusing to leave well enough alone because he knows how unhappy she still is without him, though it's pretty convenient he's stalking her just as she says all that. Twitch is suddenly undeniably awesome. He's noble, he's fearless, he's confident in his skills as a marksman and a detective, and we see example after example of those qualities here. The scene where he finesses information out of Lisa, who wrote articles about Al Simmons when he was alive, is cool, but even better is seeing Twitch, who in one episode has figured out who Spawn is when he and Sam can't seem to do anything but walk in and out of the alleys in the comics and throw their hands in the air, standing up to Spawn himself, demanding to know what's caused all this violence and who's responsible for all the recent cover-ups and conspiracies. Some of the best dialogue in the series so far is in this scene. Spawn says, "What do you think you can do about it?" And Twitch responds with, "I could do my best. You were a soldier once. What happened to your code of honor?" And what fantastic, dry-witted voice acting from Michael McShane, who also amazingly plays Garib. He thinks Al survived a cover-up, and impressed, Spawn says, "You're not far off." I love that he tells Twitch he doesn't want to see him turn up as another body in these alleys. He respects what Twitch is doing, but also it nearly happens. Realizing Twitch is onto him, Wynn orders Chief Banks himself to take care of Twitch, and he shoots him in the head, leaving us in a great cliffhanger borrowed from Blood Feud and integrated in a fantastic way. It was such a waste in the comics that I was practically giddy to see it serve a truly dramatic story function here. The very manhunt that Wynn initiated has resulted in Wynn trying to eliminate one more person, and I like that Twitch isn't perfect, and this partially happens because he's not careful enough. He's overzealous and naive, like Wanda first season, having no idea how much bigger all this is than him, and that helps all these public servants in bed with Wynn feel more believable. You cross this guy and you're dead, but like Spawn and Malbolgia, you make a deal with him and he owns you forever. Chapel's capture finally comes into play just when I wondered if we'd ever see him again. That's where Twitch first gets Al Simmons' name. Sam impatiently won't listen because Chapel still seems crazy and talks about the dead returning to life, but Twitch follows the old adage of, when you eliminate the possible, you must investigate the impossible. My biggest criticism is that Sam is made so completely incompetent next to Twitch that he's irrelevant, so much so that Twitch does all this sleuthing without his partner. Sam is such a bad shot he blames his gun, is more concerned with how many onions are on his chili dog than he is with the case, and serves mostly to give exposition or to state the obvious. We also learn about Cogliostro's background, who actually hasn't been named in 13 episodes until now, and somehow I never noticed. Glad they didn't rename him Garib or something, or all those times I called him Cogliostro would be really embarrassing. Apparently Cog was a Black Knight, became a Hellspawn, then became a wizard, went by Merlin, and got out of his obligation to Bolgi through magic. I hope we get more details because right now it looks too easy. Learn some magic and poof, you're still immortal and not a Hellspawn. I'm not sure why Cog doesn't just show Spawn how to do this if there's not much to it. I do like that we finally know where he goes when he's not in the alleys. He's the curator of antiquities at what's basically a museum of ancient Spawn stuff, like the Graveyard, only with fewer action figures and comic books. So is that what the weird building filled with skulls and creepy masks and torture devices where McFarlane hangs out in the openings is supposed to be? Why have we had 7 episodes with that place before this? My god, did I just write 3.5 pages about a 30-minute episode? I only wrote 4 on the live-action film. Signed, Captain Logan.